In the last section, I really talked a lot about, ROI, MQL, SQL, and it was sort of very natural for me to associate those things with the marketing channels that they came from. But for a lot of businesses, this is not true, or this is not so easy. A lot of people have a difficult time attributing success to their marketing programs. And so I wanted to talk quickly about why attribution is so important, and the sort of key problem that a lot of people have, which is not having a great attribution setup. So, even if you know what your KPIs are meant to be, like, okay, I understand what these different methodologies are supposed to be driving. If you don't have attribution you can trust, you'll never know if it's actually working. So what is the holy grail of attribution? So first, you need, in my opinion, you really want at least 2 touches. So you can do first or last touch as your sort of main idea, but the idea is you'd like to get as clear of a picture into the buyer's journey as you can. Totally ideal would be weighted multi-touch attribution, which is to say, we're tracking each time that someone engaged or interacted with our content, whether it was on a paid ad or a social post or an email or whatever it is. And we're basically building a map of what really works at the beginning of a relationship and what really works at the end of a relationship. But in general, I would say like the difference between 0 and 1 here is very large. So going from no attribution to even any attribution, even if it's just 1 touch, is a huge, massive improvement in visibility and strategy. Having 2 touches is, I think, a good place to sort of settle in to start, I think. You'll want to have a clear set of UTMs following a guide. So a UTM, if you're not totally familiar, is the string that's attached to a URL that passes data into basically an analytics pixel or into attribution system, which basically shows, okay, who are you? Where did you come from? How did you get here? What sort of content did you engage with, and so forth. Next is, if you have good attribution, you're going to be able to show a clear report. So developing those reports that show how effective your sources and mediums are, as well as, being able to see your funnel, so like lead, MQL, SQL, opportunity, closed won, ROI, by medium or channel. And so being able to show those effectiveness in a report is super important. And then ideally, you'd also be able to show those reports effectively by buyer journey phase as well. So being able to say, okay, what content was really in campaign was really important for people who were just learning about us, versus what content or campaign was really important for people who have known about us for a while and are thinking about making a buying choice. So these are some of these, this is the ideal. What are some of the problems that we see or mistakes we see with attribution? Well, one common one is people often just have a difficult time understanding how it actually works. And so we're going to spend just a little bit of time today going through, how an attribution system actually functions. We oftentimes see people, another mistake that we see is just not considering any touches beyond the first or the last. A buyer journey doesn't just usually happen in one day, like especially in the B2B environment. This isn't a single day close e-commerce kind of thing. Usually someone's engaging a lot with your content over time. And that means that, considering only the first touch kind of misses out on all kinds of other stuff, including like whatever the last touch was, which might be the most revenue focused. On the other hand, the last touch misses out on what content really drove someone to develop a relationship with you in the first place. So not seeing touches beyond the first or the last is, I think, a pretty common mistake. Not using standardized UTMs or UTMs at all. This is a really common problem that we see all the time. UTM parameters in analytics and reporting are case sensitive. So everyone basically has to be totally aligned. If you have one person capitalizing and one person not capitalizing, or one person using one name, another person using a different name, your data is going to come out all wonky. It's going to be really hard to report on. And your analytics, similarly will have a hard time. So finding a way to standardize UTM surrounding a guide is important, and this is sort of a common mistake. Another one is when you have this data, not actually using it. So sometimes you'll get a bunch of attribution data, but the strategy will still be oriented by whatever the marketing leader kind of is perceiving from anecdotal experience. But and that's a valuable thing as well. I shouldn't undersell how important it is to have a good marketing leader who's making sort of instinctual choices. But nonetheless, if you have all this data that shows what's really working and what's not, you should probably use it to drive that type of strategy. And then last, really common one is just that no one really trusts the data, which is, okay, we got this attribution data, but is it actually correct? Is it clear? Do we think it's worthwhile? And so finding solutions to all of these is really important to get a clear idea of how your paid advertising is actually working.